Hello students, welcome back to your English literature class. In the previous session you had done the explanation of lines 1 till 37 of Act 5, Scene 1. Today we shall continue the same. By the end of this video you will be able to understand the explanation of lines 38 till 92, understand the meanings of the difficult words as used in the context, and understand related literary devices and references. So far, you have read that Ariel informs Prospero that the shipwrecked group is a pitiful sight. The three men of sin, Alonso, Antonio, and Sebastian, are distracted, and the rest are mourning for them. Hearing Ariel speak that he would also cry if he were human, Prospero says that he will put his thirst for revenge aside and be merciful. Prospero then sends Ariel to free the three men of sin and the rest of the crew from the confusion, and draws a big magic circle with his staff. Now, let us continue with the explanation of lines 38 till 92. But before that, let me tell you that these lines that we are going to do today are Prospero's soliloquy. Now the question arises, what is a soliloquy? Children, a soliloquy are thoughts spoken out loud without addressing another, a monologue addressed to oneself. Soliloquies are used as a device in drama to let a character make his thoughts known to the audience. In his soliloquy, Prospero first muses on all that he has done with his potent art of magic and solemnly says that once this last task is done, he will break his staff and bury it in the earth and drown his magic books in the ocean. In other words, Prospero is giving up his magic. Now, open your Tempest textbook at page number 152. Let's read lines 38 till 55. Prospero. Ye elves of hills, brooks, standing lakes and groves, and ye that on the sands with printless foot do chase the ebbing Neptune, and do fly him when he comes back. Children, ye means you. Elves are spirits. Standing means stagnant or not flowing. Printless means leaving no impression. Ebbing means retreating. Neptune is the god of sea. When he comes back, here he stands for Neptune. It means when Neptune advances again. In other words, we are trying to say when the sea waves once again advance towards the shore. So, in these lines, Prospero is addressing all the spirits who have helped him to carry out his tasks with their magic. With printless foot, children, it was an old superstition that the elves and fairies left no footprints on the ground. So light and unsubstantial were they, their bodies having no weight or physical substance. The elves and fairies were supposed to be so light in weight that they did not leave any impression on the ground on which they stood. In these lines, Prospero addresses the fairies or the spirits dwelling in hills, in flowing streams, and in the standing or silent waters of lakes and among trees. Then he addresses the spirits who leave no footprints on sands. He addresses the spirits who follow the receding Neptune with feet that leave no signs or no footprints on sands. And then these spirits rush away when the sea waves again advance towards the shore. You demi-puppets, that by moonshine do the green sour ringlets make, whereof the yew not bites, and you whose pastime is to make midnight mushrooms, that rejoice to hear the solemn curfew. Now children, demi-puppet means small tiny creatures. Do the green sour ringlets make means make green rings on the grass when you dance in a circle. Now children, here we have a popular superstition. According to this popular superstition, those rings are made by the feet of the fairies dancing at night. And the common people state that the sheep will not eat the grass in those fairy circles as it is sour. Yew means sheep. Midnight mushrooms. Again children, we have a reference to an old superstition. The old superstition was that the mushrooms were made by fairies during the night. Curfew. Curfew means evening bell, warning people that the day had ended. Now again we have a common belief of people. People believed that fairies and elves had no power by day, but were free all night, from curfew to cockcrow, that is, from evening till the morning, the fairies had power to do magic. So, in these lines, Prospero addresses those small creatures, that is, the spirits, who in the light of the moon make fairy circles of brighter and lighter green color than the grass, which is left without being eaten by the sheep because of its sour taste. Now he addresses the spirits whose game is to make midnight mushrooms, that is, to make mushrooms grow at night, and who are glad, they rejoice, that means they are glad to hear the serious sound of the curfew bell. Now let's continue reading. By whose aid, weak masters though ye be, I have bedimmed the noontide sun, called forth the mutinous winds, and twixt the green sea and the azured vault set roaring war. To the dread rattling thunder have I given fire. Now children, note down the meanings of these words. Weak masters though ye be, it means the spirits are weak if left to themselves because they waste their forces in sports and in frivolous or discordant aims, but powerful when guided by wisdom and trained to worthy ends. Bedimmed means made dim. Mutinous winds means storms. Twixt means between. Azured vault refers to bright blue sky. Dread means frightening. Now children, in these lines, Prospero says that it was with the help of these spirits that he worked wonders, even though their supernatural powers are not very potent. With their help, he has darkened the noontide sun, that is, the light on the sun at the noontime. He has caused rebellious and uncontrollable storms to blow and create a great disturbance in the region which lies between the green sea and the azured vault, that is, the green sea and the blue sky. With their help he has given to the dreadful rattling thunder or to the dreadful roaring thunder the power of lightning. That is the power of fire, the power of lightning. and rifted Jove's stout oak with his own bolt. Prospero says that he has given the power of lightning to the roaring thunder. Now, this lightning, which struck the powerful oak trees so dear to mighty Jupiter, causing as much harm to that tree as Jove's own thunderbolt could have done. The strong based promontory have I made shake, and by the spurs plucked up the pine and cedar. Graves at my command have waked their sleepers, oped and let them forth by my so potent art. Now note down the meanings of these words. Bolt means thunderbolt. Promontory means high land that jutes into the sea. Spurs. Children's spur is a device with a small spike or spiked wheel that is worn on a rider's heel and used for urging a horse forward. Spurs. Plucked up means uprooted so as to expose the roots that spread like spurs. So when Prospero, with the help of the spirits, has uprooted the mighty pine and cedar trees, their roots have been exposed, and these roots look like those spurs. Oped means opened, potent means powerful, and art refers to Prospero's art of magic. So in these lines, Prospero says that with the help of these spirits, he has made the strongly founded rocks tremble and has uprooted the pine and cedar trees. Graves have opened at his command and allowed the ghosts to come out. Now, children, here one thing is very important. If we read Prospero's dialogues, we understand that with his magic power, he has opened the graves and the spirits or the ghosts have walked. But symbolically, this has secondary meaning. That by Shakespeare's dramatic art, old dead kings of England, men like Macbeth, Lear, Henry V, Richard III, have been revived in the drama and walked the stage again before the people of England. That means in his drama, the actors perform the roles of old dead kings, and these kings, they were walking on the stage like Macbeth, Lear, Henry V, Richard III. So they were all walking on the stage. I hope you have understood till here. Now let us read the gist of the lines. Drawing a large circle on the stage with his staff or magic wand, Prospero says that he has darkened the noontide sun with the help of the elves or spirits who live in the hills and brooks and groves, and the spirits who chase the sea on the beach without leaving footprints in the sand and run away when the waves come back, and the spirits who make mushrooms while the moon shines as a hobby after the evening bell has rung. With their help, Prospero has called up the angry winds and set the green sea and blue sky at war with each other. He has given lightning to the thunder clouds and burned up Jupiter's beloved oak with his own lightning bolts. Prospero has shaken up the sturdy cliffs and uprooted pines and cedars. He has opened up graves and awakened the corpses sleeping in them, letting them out with his powerful magic. Now let's read further. Lines 55 till 62. But this rough magic I here abjure, and when I have required some heavenly music, which even now I do, to work mine end upon their senses, that this airy charm is for, I'll break my staff, bury its certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than did ever plummet sound I'll drown my book. Solemn music. Please note down the meanings of these difficult words. Rough means harsh. Abjure means give up. Required means asked. Work means carry out. End means design. Airy means wrought by the spirits of air. Charm, magic spell. Staff, the rod, or we can say the magic wand of Prospero. Fathoms means 6 feet. In measuring the depth of an ocean, the term fathom is used. Plummet, it's a weighted line used for measuring the depth of water. Sound means to test the depth of water, and book refers to magic books. Prospero has resolved to give up his magic forever. With the help of his magic, he has performed miracles in the island. With his potent art, he has caused the graves to open their mouths and let out the dead buried therein. In other words, he has called dead men back to life. He has got one thing more to do by his magical powers. He will ask the spirits to give some sweet solemn music in order that he may restore the senses of his enemies, Alonso, Antonio, and Sebastian. It is for them that he has been working the charm so long, raise the storm and cause the shipwreck. And when his final deed of restoring them to their senses by magic power is done, he will break his magic wand and bury it several feet deep in the earth. And he will drown his magic book in the deep sea, which can never be plumbed by the sailor's plumb line. In short, from this moment, Prospero will have nothing to do with magic, and he will live the life of an ordinary man. Now, children, it is very important to notice here that he uses the word rough for magic. Prospero's announcement is dramatically important. However benevolently Prospero used his magic powers, he is a typical Elizabethan in the sense that all the time he believed that he was dabbling in a forbidden art. So this forbidden art is his rough magic. Hence, when his purpose is fulfilled, he must drown his book. In simple words, Prospero knows that magic is a forbidden art. So, when his purpose of taking the revenge from his enemy is fulfilled, he is ready to give up his magic. Now let us read the gist of the lines. Prospero says that he surrenders all this magic now. He calls upon his magic to render its last service to him. His last demand is to invoke some heavenly music to create the effect which he likes to produce upon the minds of those for whom he is using this magic, exercised by airy spirits. With this last demand, he will break his magic staff and bury it several feet deep in the earth, and throw his book of magic spells deeper into the sea than the sounding line has ever been plumbed. Now let's move to the next lines. Lines 63 and 64. Re-enter Ariel. After him Alonso, with a frantic gesture, attended by Gonzalo. Sebastian and Antonio in like manner, attended by Adrian and Francisco. They all enter the circle which Prospero had made, and there stand charmed, which Prospero, observing, speaks. In like manner means making similar gestures. Charmed means spellbound. So these lines mean Ariel enters, followed by Alonso, who is gesturing frantically, accompanied by Gonzalo. Sebastian and Antonio enter in the same way, accompanied by Adrian and Francisco. They all enter the circle that Prospero has drawn and stand there under a spell. Prospero, watching all of this, speaks, though the others do not hear him. Let's read lines 65 till 84. A solemn air and the best comforter to an unsettled fancy, cure thy brains, now useless, boiled within thy skull. There stand, for you are spell-stopped. To Gonzalo, holy Gonzalo, honourable man, mine eyes even sociable to the show of thine fall fellowly drops. Air means music, unsettled fancy, distracted mind, boiled within the skull, filled with anger within your head, spell stopped, immobilized by magic, sociable, sympathetic. Fellowly drops means sympathetic tears. Now, children, in these lines, Prospero prays that a serious musical note which provides best consolation to a bewildered mind may cure their brains, which are now of no use and in a state of great confusion because they are filled with anger. Then he tells them to stand there where they are because they are spell stopped, that is, immobilized, or they are absolutely incapable of moving on account of power of his music which controls them. Then he addresses Gonzalo and says, Holy Gonzalo. Prospero says that he is susceptible and noble soul, and his eyes shed tears of sympathy in response to the tears which he sees in his eyes. Now, for whom does Gonzalo have tears in his eyes? Gonzalo has tears in his eyes for Alonso, his king. A sight, the charm dissolves apace, and as the morning steals upon the night, melting the darkness, so their rising senses begin to chase the ignorant fumes that mantle their clearer reason. Now, children, in these lines, Shakespeare has used a metaphor. The metaphor is that of darkness being dispelled by coming of morning. Dissolves means lose influence. Apace means quickly. In these lines, Prospero speaks aside, that means he speaks to himself and he says that his magic is now rapidly losing its power and its effect is melting away, just as the night is followed by the morning which removes darkness. So they are recovering their senses which are going to remove the fumes of ignorance which conceal clear wit and reason. To Gonzalo, O good Gonzalo, my true preserver and loyal sir, to him you followest, I will pay thy graces home, both in word and deed. Pay means repay, graces, virtues, home, thoroughly. Prospero again addresses Gonzalo as a good man and says that he was responsible for Prospero's safety, and he is a faithful follower of one to whom he renders his service, that is, Alonso. Prospero says that he will repay Gonzalo fully for the services which he rendered to him, and he will do so both by word and by deed. To Alonso, most cruelly didst thou, Alonso, use me and my daughter. Thy brother was a furtherer in the act. Use me means treat me. Furtherer means helper. Here Prospero addresses Alonso and says that he treated Prospero and his daughter most cruelly. He also says that his brother, that is, Sebastian, helped him in the act. To Sebastian, thou art pinched for it now. Pinched means feeling the punishment. Now Prospero addresses Sebastian and says that Sebastian is being punished for what he did. That is, he helped Alonso and Antonio in ousting Prospero from his dukedom. To Antonio, flesh and blood, you brother mine, that entertained ambition, expelled remorse and nature, whom with Sebastian, whose inward pinches therefore are most strong, would here have killed your king. I do forgive thee, unnatural though thou art. Note down the meanings of these difficult words. Entertained means cherished. Pinches means regret or repentance. Unnatural means against natural feeling. In these lines, Prospero addresses his brother Antonio as his own flesh and blood, his own brother. He says that Antonio was so influenced by his ambition as to drive out all pity and natural feelings from his heart. He even hatched conspiracy with Sebastian, who is now feeling bitter pangs of conscience, to kill King Alonso. Prospero here forgives Antonio, although he as brother has done all unnatural acts. Now let us read the gist of the lines. Prospero says, let this solemn melody comfort your fevered minds, which are now useless, seething inside your skulls. He says that all of them stand there in his spell. He addresses Gonzalo as good Gonzalo, an honorable man, and says that his eyes weep for him, since he feels what he must feel now. Then he speaks to himself that the spell is breaking gradually, and just as dawn creeps in and melts away the darkness, they will slowly return to their senses. He addresses Gonzalo again as dear Gonzalo and says that he is Prospero's savior and loyal to his lord Alonso. He tells Gonzalo that he will reward him fully, not just with praise, but with actions too. Next, Prospero addresses Alonso and says that he treated him and his daughter cruelly, and his brother helped him. He addresses Sebastian and says that he is paying the price for it now. He addresses Antonio as his brother and says that he was so greedy for power that he forgot natural compassion and their bond as brothers, and was ready to kill his king. He forgives Antonio, though he is a monster or he is unnatural as a brother. Now let us continue with lines 85 till 92. Aside, their understanding begins to swell, and the approaching tide will shortly fill the reasonable shore that now lies foul and muddy. Now children, again here metaphor has been used. Here he is trying to say their consciousness begins to re-emerge, and the returning flood of common intelligence will soon fill the shore of reason, which now lies dirty and muddy. Their understanding and reason were deeply affected and paralyzed by the experience they had gone through, and now they begin to function again. Now children, this is a metaphor. At certain places in the English coast, when the tide goes out, it leaves bare a large expanse of muddy and unattractive sea bottom. The returning tide in due course covers it again. Similarly, the lost senses are coming back again. So, in these lines, Prospero talks to himself and says that their minds are now beginning to regain their power, and the rising tide of their senses will soon bring back in them their reason, which is at this moment befogged and unable to function properly. Not one of them that yet looks on me or would know me Prospero says that there is none among them who can yet see him due to this ignorance. Even if any one of them begins to see him, he would not know him. That means he would not recognize him. To Ariel, Ariel, fetch me the hat and rapier in my cell. I will discase me and myself present as I was sometime Milan. Quickly, spirit, thou shalt ere long be free. Now Prospero addresses Ariel and he tells him to bring his hat and sword, which Ariel would find in his cell. Prospero will put off his magic clothes and show himself in the clothes which he wore earlier when he was the Duke of Milan. Children, Milan here refers to the Duke of Milan. Prospero tells Ariel to be quick and informs him that he will soon be set free. Now let us read the gist of the lines. Prospero says to himself that they are starting to understand. Soon their confused minds will clear up. But at this point, not a single one of them recognizes him. He then tells Ariel to get him his hat and sword from his room. He says that he will take off the clothes that he is wearing now, that is his magic robes, and put on the ones he used to wear in Milan. He tells Ariel that he will soon set him free. I hope you have understood the explanation of these lines. This brings us to the end of today's lesson. For your homework, children, solve the assignment given to you in your SNAP homework. Thank you.